say that Isabeau from Shin Megami Tensei 4 is a great character might be an understatement. In a genre of games that is praised for its amazing characters, Isabeau manages to be more notable and memorable than most characters I've encountered. In this video, I will show you why that is, what makes Isabeau so amazing, and explain why she is my favorite character ever. Coming from the weird SMT Nocturne and the strange journey, SMT4 go back to the traditions and reintroduces the heroine/partner character role, a person who acts as a companion to the protagonist and helps them along the way. And the person who fulfills that role in SMT4 is Isabeau. In previous games or just JRPGs in general, the heroine or partner's job is to just follow the protagonist to the end and fight alongside them. They are given a small character arc dedicated to them, but outside of that, they rarely impact the story. Even today, JRPG heroines, even with their respectfully good characters, still don't affect the core story like Isabeau does. When we first get introduced to her, Isabeau is a samurai apprentice that just got recently recruited, like the protagonist Flynn. She is shown to be strong-willed yet dignified. She is vicarious and has a strong mind. But she has an insecurity that she tries to hide, provoking Walter to break her quote-unquote iron mask. The insecurity that she tries to hide is her lack of conviction in her decisions. She leaves most of the major decision-making to someone else, most of the time taking the neutral stance when faced with complicated questions. But as the game goes on, her insecurity starts to slip up, as you and the party are presented with more and more complicated moral decisions. Another thing to note is her deep love for manga. The one in particular that is brought up multiple times in the game is one that is set in the fictional kingdom known as France, with a beautiful, strong female warrior lead dressed in male garb that actively participate in events who later falls in love with her male companion. Isabeau even goes out of her way to finish the manga on a side quest and even cover her ears from spoilers. If you're a very old school weeb, the manga sounds like this manga that I don't know how to pronounce, and that is correct. If you read the manga and play SMT4, the main character Oscar actually somewhat mirror how Isabeau is in the game, or at least how Isabeau described it in the game. For one, she is a strong female warrior who is dressed in male garb, the samurai uniform, that actively participate in events. And also, she is awkward around boys her age and keeps a distance from them because of that. But she takes an interest in Flynn as he doesn't talk much, seeing as he's a solid protagonist and all. And through admiration for his conviction and confidence, that interest evolves into full-blown affection as they continue the journey. When the party is faced with moral questions, she often takes Flynn's side and shows more care towards him. Through her love and admiration for Flynn, her persona starts to fade slowly, revealing her for who she truly is. She slowly starts to open up about her lack of conviction, but inspired by Flynn, she starts to try and form her own routes and solutions. She starts to have more faith in herself, even considering uniting the people of Tokyo with Mikado. Things were starting to look up for her. But then, the route split happens. The route split is a major event in SMT4, where the cast goes their separate ways, and you have to choose whether to side with Jonathan or Walter, and it drastically affects your alignment, either giving you plus 10 chaos or law. What choice you choose doesn't affect Isabeau's story. Presented with the extremes of both law and chaos, she cannot make a decision herself, and leaves, not even siding with Flynn this time. She knows that both sides are wrong, and she can be found thinking about what the best choice for everyone is. After this, we don't see her for a while, and depending on which route you take, the next encounter with her can be drastically different. And I think it's a great example of why she is such an amazing character.
I've been waiting for you.
If Flynn allies with either law or chaos, Isabeau, with her newfound confidence and conviction, opposes Flynn. The fight itself is unavoidable, and it's every bit depressing. Even the music has this somber, airy sense of uncertainty. Isabeau is just trying her hardest to stand up for what she believes in for the first time in the game, even putting aside her feelings for Flynn, just to do what's right, stopping the mass genocide of Tokyo on law and bringing upon a never-ending war on chaos. He knows that she's far weaker than Flynn, yet she doesn't let that discourage her, and she asks Flynn to fight her as an equal. Despite giving her all, the fight itself is not that hard. But I think that's what the developers are going for. They want to make you feel like a villain, tormenting a helpless person. It just drains everything out of you and makes you feel bad. One thing that is unique to the SMT4 duology is that bosses can ask you questions mid-battle, and if you answer correctly, you get a slight advantage. The questions that Isabeau asks are devastating. She asks the questions as if she knows that Flynn wouldn't do such a thing. She knows that Flynn is controlled by someone, and that someone is not Merkaba or Lucifer. It is you, the player. When she asks the questions, she is asking directly to you. How could you do such a thing? It just makes you reconsider everything that you have done as a player up to this point. What's worse is that the answers that give you the advantage are the most inhumane and indoctrinated ones. Upon beating her, Isabeau reveals her feelings for Flynn, as well as her desires to remain by his side. And not wanting blood on Flynn's hand, she slits her own throat with her sword. This whole fight just makes you question whether the route that you chose is the right one, and you as the player know that it's wrong and try to ignore that, but the game masterfully didn't throw the consequences of what you've done at you all at once, but slowly and gradually built it up so that it just sits there at the back of your mind. Even years after completing the game, it's just there, reminding you of what you've done. That is not the end of her character though. If you were to align with the neutral route, amidst the war between heaven and Lucifer, Isabeau will be looking for the very thing that gives her hope. Flynn, or rather, you. And upon finding Flynn, she takes comfort in him, begs him not to send her away and allow her to remain by his side. She explains what is going on, and you and Isabeau try to find a solution where most people do not have to die. And upon finding the choice to unite both countries, Isabeau, finally with confidence and conviction, takes the leading role. She is not following Flynn's decision anymore. She shows that she is capable of doing things on her own, and starts to have more confidence in her decisions and the choices she makes. And when you get to see a person with such self-doubt finally growing into someone who starts taking on the leading role, it just fills you with this giddy feeling, and it puts a smile on your face. So, what makes Isabeau amazing? I honestly don't know. It has many different answers depending on who you ask. Some might even say that she's not all that great. But what I think makes her outstanding is her relatability. Her struggle isn't a dead parent or emotional trauma like most stories like to do. Her struggle is a very realistic one that we can all relate to, not just in the context of SMT, but life in general. She doesn't have much conviction and doubts herself constantly and is left confused by life decisions. Yet, she doesn't give up. Inspired by people around her, she tries to find alternative ways to achieve her goal. Her struggles are something that we've all gone through at some points in our life. Because of that, as a male, I end up relating to Isabeau more than a lot of other male characters from any other story I've seen. And that is also what I think makes her boss fight memorable and painful. You are fighting someone who mirrors yourself. You see them go through the same struggle that you've gone through, and you want them to succeed. You want them to be happy. But in the game, you don't just see her happiness taken away from her. You give it to her, and you personally have to take that away from her. But When we do see her grow, it in turn makes us happy. Never has a game made me exert so much emotion for a person that I intellectually know does not exist.